This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Oh, absolutely. Even when the score was 15 points, you're like, well, touchdown, 2-point conversion, it's tied. And obviously we knew that had they lost that game, it would have been the biggest blown lead in Arkansas football history. Because right now that Belk Bowl it is the biggest at 24 points. So, it was a crazy night. But the thing is this, they got a win out of it, and it wound up being a game that people are going to talk about for a long, long time. So had let's just say they had ruled properly on the Matt Landers non-fumble, Arkansas wins by 15. It's pretty, it's a dominating, kind of a nondescript type of game. Now it's going to go down in Arkansas football lore.
Well, at least they won. I think that's what Sam Pittman was really happy about in the press conference. He mentioned guys stepping up, whether it was a Marion Harris, whether it was A.J. Green, Rashad Dubinion. Tom, what did you think about the guys that we really haven't watched all season that ended up coming up big last night in key moments?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jaden Wilson had a big reception and had a 2-point conversion catch. We had seen them a couple of times in practice for the bowl, and the pass game looked, let's just say, off. And you're thinking, wow, if they can't complete passes against their scout team, how's this going to look? But KJ Jefferson is a phenomenal talent, and he kind of willed them to this in a way. And they ran for 394 yards. Dubinion had just a monster game. I think if they had known A.J. Green was sitting on 99 yards, those last two runs in regulation put him at 99. And if they'd known, they might have gotten three guys over 100 yards, and it would have been another spectacular achievement.
Tom, Levi texted in thinking back about this season. We were just answering the question, one word to describe it. You lost 4 games by 9 points. You almost lost one by 2 points or 1 point, whatever you were going to frame it as last night. Like, how do you put this season, as we look back on it in perspective, as close as they were in some games, and then pulling a game out like this at the very end?
Did we lose Tom?
I lost him.
Maybe your question left him speechless.
No, you're good.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I hit the mute button.
Oh, you're good.
There you are.
You pulled a Richard. Go ahead, man. Did you?
Sorry about that. Yeah, but this could have been an 8-win team, 9-win team, quite easily. We all know the plays. We've talked about them a million times. But last night was the one game they didn't cough up the lead, and they win it by 2 points. And I don't know. You got the sense from Sam Pittman there was major relief. Because imagine the meltdown if they had lost that game. Of course, there was already a social media meltdown going on during the comeback. But to do that with a much depleted roster, and he pointed this out several times. Think about the SEC schools that were down a bunch of guys and go in a bowl game and just didn't compete very well. I don't know how many guys Florida was down, but they were a no-show. And so he was really proud of that. And I think when you look at young guys like Quincy McAdoo and, Stevens and Jaden Wilson, Jordan Crook, Marion Harris, there's going to be a different look to this team next year. And I do think there's a particular strength in their in their lines that we're going to start seeing a little bit more next year.
And you mentioned the roster, and we talked about this yesterday. Chuck made the point here on the show that, this is really a one-off roster. Dan Mullen made that point last night in the broadcast again, that, this is a roster that you didn't play with all this year. You're not going to play with it all next year. It's kind of for this one game. So win or lose, and you're glad you won the game. How much stock do you really put into the performance and the outcome of what you saw last night?
Totally, you're right. It was a one-off roster. We'll never see that composition of the roster again with 50 or whatever scholarship players in the game. And think back to the onside kick. He said it's the coach's fault though that they didn't practice. They did practice it, but didn't practice it enough. There were some dudes on that team who weren't regulars on the hands team for fielding an onside kick. It happened so fast. I'm not sure what the front wave guys did, but it looked like Matt Landers might have had a chance to come in there and get a scoop, but he wasn't super aggressive. So, and by the way, I know a lot of people are frustrated. Hunter Yurachek pointed out how good they have it with SEC officiating. I did not like the Landers fumble call. I thought his elbow was down. I thought he was cupping the ball. It wasn't loose when his elbow hit. And it's almost like, hey, let's just make this a close game. Let's let Arkansas earn this one.
Yeah.
Now, the targeting call, I thought it could go either way. I know some guys who are big NFL fans who were just furious about that call. And I hate it for Quincy McAdoo, but I see, maybe it was a sideline glance along the shoulder / helmet. But, man, that would have been a fantastic play to end the game on. And instead, they get Kansas gets cutesy and throws the reverse pass. And, all the things Jalen Daniels did in that game. And then you leave that play out of his hands and the backup quarterback throws it. I felt a little bad for Kansas there.
Yeah, we've talked about that play. We can come back to the officiating angle here in a minute. But how do you do that and put it in Bean's hand for the only attempt? It was as the play set up for a fraction of a second, you're thinking, well, okay, we'll go to the next down, that the ball was just thrown away. No, it's just poorly thrown. The game's over. But it was a play that sets up and presents just like a play that, all right, everybody's covered, nowhere to go. We'll get rid of it. That was how the play played out.
Well, it did, and from my perspective, I thought Josh Bean had room to run. I thought if he decided to put his shoulder down, he would have scored. But hey, man, Arkansas will take it. It wasn't a perfect game, but it was a one-off roster. Who would have thought they'd had a 38-13 lead? They came out ready to run the ball, and I thought they did some two-back stuff. They did some pitch stuff. They did some misdirection and some counters off of the pitch stuff. They had some special plays in. The Ty Washington touchdown pass was a special play that worked perfectly. Didn't work in practice so much, but it worked in the game. And Kansas had them too. It was what you want a bowl game to be, full of all kind of fun stuff, dramatic ending, and the fans got their money's worth.
So you mentioned the fans, Tom. I was talking to a few that made the trip. What was the comparison like between the Kansas crowd and the Arkansas crowd last night?
I looked at the national anthem, and it looked to me as if it was pretty close to half and half, but maybe a few more Kansas fans. I will tell you that around downtown, it felt like a whole lot more Kansas fans, but I also think you had some day trippers for the Razorbacks. A
lot of them.
So I don't know. I would put it somewhere along the 60-40 range, or maybe 55-45.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Matt Landers for a sec. Here's a guy that people were speculating, he's going to get ready for the NFL draft. He's not going to play. You referenced the fumble, but he did have that great touchdown. Also had another nice game where KJ found him, I think, on a 3rd and 5, 30, 40 yards. How much do you think he may have impacted his draft stock with the game he played last night?
Oh, I do think it helped him that he played in the game, and then he's a guy who got loose, and I'm not sure what coverage breakdown Kansas had on the 59-yard touchdown, but there was nobody around him. In fact, there was at least 6 or 8 plays in that game where there was nobody covering. So two times on Kansas's first drive, they just schemed it up, and there was no Razorback around. So, but no, I think Matt Landers helped himself. And again, I just think that he didn't fumble, and they made a bad call in the review booth.
I agree with you on that. For Sam Pittman, this was a significant win. It gets him his 7th win. And I was reading last night where by the contract he signed with Hunter Yurachek at the university, that gets him a raise and a contract extension. So, it might have just been a win to get you to 7-6, but for Sam Pittman, it was a significant financial win last night.
Oh, yeah, and the thing is, I think every Razorback fan would say this could have or should have been a 9-win team. I mean, you were right there with LSU and several other games. So, we'll see. They need to add some linebackers. They need to add some more DBs to be as competitive as they were this year, in my opinion.
Portal's going to open back up. You'll start seeing some activity there. What do you think is next? I got to believe we think some staff changes are still on the horizon with a new defensive coordinator. What do you think the next week to 10 days looks like for Sam Pittman?
Well, yeah, pretty crazy. I mean, I think Sam hinted at that there were more changes coming, and I think he meant more along terms of the roster. Maybe some guys who didn't see the type of playing time they wanted. And Sam saying, like, this is going to be the year-to-year thing with the way the transfer portal is working. So I'm not sure about staff changes. There very well could be. I mean, there were the reports that Michael Scheer would follow Barry Odom to UNLV, and he may very well do that. But I think Sam Pittman is going to try to make it enticing for Scheer to stay. The problem being either he or Travis Williams would have to change and maybe coach safeties, and with the other one handling linebackers. So we'll see how that works out in the coming days.
I know you were in the stadium and not watching the TV broadcast, but finally ESPN figured out whoever was up in the coach's booth was not Michael Scherer. Yeah. They kept showing someone in the booth and referring to him as Michael Scherer, who was on the sideline, of course, and Richard Davenport even pointed out on Twitter, that's not Michael Scherer, by the way, and it's kind of entertaining. ESPN didn't have their best night either. So.
Oh, man. Well, we've been noticing, I know ESPN's had a lot of layoffs, and there's been some bad chyrons, graphics, whatever you call them, lately, and that's just another example. That was probably Jake Trump, the guy who was elevated to the 10-man staff. We knew that. I mean, all it took was asking Kyle Parkinson that where's Michael Scherer in this game? He's on the sideline. I mean, you could see him down there pretty clearly. The internet was lagging last night. I tried to have the broadcast going, which is the way I do it, and listening to that, and I only caught little snippets in the second quarter when it would actually play. So that was a little bit frustrating.
You don't listen to Chuck and Quinn. I'm a little disappointed, Tom.
Was there a question?
Do you mute him again?
Tom, before you go, did you get to see 1 second of the basketball game?
I actually did not. I mean, it was during the post game where we pull up our stat broadcast and see it was a really tight game, and I just saw that the free throw shooting was horrendous, and Arkansas neither team shot the 3-pointer very well, so I'll have to dive into that one a little bit later.
All right. Well, thanks for the coverage. We'll talk to you, I guess, next year here on the Morning Rush after we get back from the holiday next week.
All right, guys. I always enjoy it. Thanks for having me on.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.